The hopes of many Tunisian refugees have been dashed. That's the first thing I notice. After more than 100 days sleeping rough in a park near the Paris ring road, there's not much left of their dreams, only frustration. Look, this Tunisian says. It's all dirty. France is a garbage can. They don't want to tell me anything else because they feel as if everyone has abandoned them. In many cases, desperation has turned to aggression. There were some 300 refugees living here. Now only a few remain. Most of them have by now found emergency accommodation. Many of them come from southern Tunisia, near the border with Libya. Khaled Shriya tells me they fled from poverty. He borrowed 1,500 euros just for the boat journey. After the way I left, I can't go back, he says. First, I have to pay off the loans I took out. Bruno Bertelot works for the aid group Aurore. He found Khaled a place to stay. The city authorities asked him to help as more and more Tunisians became stranded in Paris. It's a culture shock for them, the aid worker says. They have the feeling we don't like them and are not reacting appropriately to them. They're left to their own devices in the park. They imagine they're coming to paradise, but they find hell. The bureaucracy is a big problem. Khaled hopes his qualifications will be recognized. He also hopes that France and Tunisia reach a special agreement on the refugee problem, allowing him to gain a residency permit. If I can get my papers sorted out, I can have a lot, he says. A job at least, for me and for my family in Tunisia. If I get a modest job, I can look after my family. But French law does not allow him to work. And he can't even get illegal jobs because the risk for employers is too great. Khaled's daily routine consists of wandering restlessly through the city of his dreams. But now, without family or friends, he feels alone. He has little contact with French people and their culture. I don't understand, Khaled says, why France is doing nothing for the Tunisian refugees. We always thought this was the country of human rights, and there aren't that many refugees. Khaled says his first days in Paris were lacking in human dignity. He doesn't want to be there when I filmed the first place he slept in. It's too embarrassing for him. Although he made it to France, he still feels like he's fleeing, he says. He makes detours to avoid encounters with the police. You feel constant fear and stress, Khaled says. You have no rights that protect you. You don't belong to any state. No one is there to protect you. Only rarely does he make a trip to the world of real Parisians. Ali Mars came to Paris in the late 70s to study. He often told Khaled about how great it was to live in the French capital. We lived in a happy society, Ali says. We were full of the joys of life. There weren't the problems there are today. Although Ali wishes his cousin Khaled could stay here, he also understands why France is reluctant to accept the refugees. France has, I don't know exactly, 3 or 4 million unemployed, he says. So France already has a problem. I go to the France Terre d'Asile aid organization to find out what the future looks like for the Tunisian refugees in Paris. But Mohamed Majidi finds it difficult to answer that question. His group can only organize places to sleep, food, and washing facilities. But he says a political solution is needed. He thinks France's close ties to Tunisia mean it should show responsibility. I think we're paying for the mistakes of the past, Mohamed says, especially the foreign policy mistakes. If you cover up for dictators, it will boomerang on you at some point. The refugees who are being looked after by France Terre d'Asile are following the political developments closely. Every day they have less hope of returning with dignity. France has become a place of trauma for them.
We don't
want our families to see us on television, these men say. We've told them everything's fine, it's all going well. If they see us on TV, they'd see that we're lying, and they would worry. The heroes of the revolution have become a problem for France, as these cartoons indicate. Or, as lawyer Samia Maktouf says, a ping-pong ball between Italy and France. Italy issued travel documents to the refugees, allowing them to travel on to France, and ridding Italy of the refugee problem. The young men who had the chance to get these residency permits were proud, she says. They boasted about them and happily showed them off. It was like winning something, a passport for life. But after France and Italy agreed a deal, the passports were withdrawn again. Samia has Tunisian roots. She's currently trying to help dozens of refugees, including Khaled. She gets upset by the accusation made by many politicians that the refugees are only looking for a better life. We're not dealing with economic refugees here, Samia says. This is an extremely unusual humanitarian issue. So, of course, you have to find unusual political solutions, at least temporarily, to allow them to return in dignity and with respect to their home country. Hoping for a residency permit, Khaled leaves his lawyer's office on the upmarket Champs-Élysées. Now he's on his own again. He has changed his tactics in an effort to avoid being deported. If you don't carry papers, he says, you could be lucky and not be deported immediately. That's because in order to deport you, they have to have at least a few personal details. Khaled hopes to be able to stay for as long as possible, maybe even long enough to get official documents. He hopes at least to be able to bring some money back to Tunisia with him. I will never repeat this adventure in my life, he says. Even if I'm dying of hunger, I won't do it. It's not easy. Not easy at all. Khaled would not advise any other Tunisians to come to Paris. And he also sees his own future being back in Tunisia at some point.